I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans. And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field. Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
This is a matchup for the ages. Audi cuts a path straight to the paint, and she serves up a slam dunk. Hope Audi may have the win, but Frank really got the W on that play. That's gotta hurt.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Reaction Time. I'm Jacqueline Cordova, joined as always by Ben Visser. Big weekend for the Cyclones. They had 2 road duels against South Dakota State and UNI on Sunday. Ben, what'd you think?
I think this is a great time to have 2 road duels.
Yeah.
Because as you run into tournament time, obviously you're not in your home. You're sleeping in a different bed. You have to cut weight back-to-back days or within close proximity of each other. So it gives guys a really good feel for what that's going to feel like. And then you wrestle 2 really quality programs. So I think Dresser did an excellent job scheduling this weekend just to get that experience for these guys because we saw differing results, right? Mm-hmm. I think Panero Johnson's probably the most obvious one. On Friday against South Dakota State, he gets his first major decision of the year, 14-4. Maybe it wasn't his first major decision of the year, but Dresser had been telling him to get bonus points, strive for bonus points, does that, wins 14-4. And then 2 days later against UNI's Colin Realbuto, he's up, I think it was 7-2, right? Mm-hmm. And then gets hit for a whole bunch of stall calls, loses the match in sudden victory 10-7. So I think that's going to be a great learning experience for Panero Johnson. Like, all right, it sounded like he probably cut weight okay, but there was definitely he got gassed. At least from I only listened to it on the radio, but from what they were saying, it sounded like Panero got gassed by that third period. So maybe there's a bad weight cut in there. Maybe who knows what happened, but I think that's going to be a great learning experience for a guy like Panero Johnson. And you got a guy like Cody Chittum who had a truly excellent weekend. I mean, beat 2 ranked guys, 2 really good wins. Finally gets over the Ryder Downey hump against UNI. So I loved the schedule that Dresser put together here at the end of the season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it definitely was good to get these guys on the road. I mean, they'll go on the road this weekend too against Missouri, but I think it'll just benefit them the most going into March. But I mean, I look at Friday night and all I can think is Herrera's win. Like how huge. So I guess I should back up. Iowa State, did you say this already? I don't think you did.
I did not.
Iowa State beat South Dakota State 20-15. And Daniel Herrera came in clutch with an 8-7 win over number 26 Luke Rasmussen. Daniel Herrera at the time ranked number 27. So you could say, evenly matched. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the duel apparently, was right there. Mm-hmm. And Daniel Herrera stepped up to the plate, came in as the anchor, clinched that win for him, which is huge. Obviously, when you look at it, heavyweight's always at the bottom, right?
Yep.
Like there's a post to close the duel out. But I feel like it just does something different for a guy when you get to walk out of it knowing like, okay, we won because I was able to win my match. It just means a little extra than maybe when you're in the middle and you're just kind of flowing through the motions. So I felt like it was another big thing, a big moment for Daniel Herrera's confidence to continue to build because you want him to peak in March. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really huge, especially just him also winning against UNI. He went in against, Lance Runyon, who is ranked number 14, or was. I haven't looked at all the rankings for everybody. But at the time, he was number 14. And Daniel Herrera beat him 3-1. Mm-hmm. And that was awesome. It's really encouraging to see him just consistently improving. And I asked Dresser at availability about just, what what is he like in comparison to other true freshmen? Because it's not often or super common, really, for true freshmen to come in and have an immediate successful season. And so he kind of talked about how it sounds like it's his like passion for winning and his passion for competition is what's really driving him. And it sounds like he just needs to clean up a few things in the practice room and in preparation, which, I mean, it's really normal. Think back to being 19 years old, assuming he's 19. I assume he's 19. So if your competition and the results you're seeing is what's driving you, I think that hopefully prepares him to be able to handle the grueling work that it is to go through Big 12s and especially the national tournament. So I think he was one of my favorite parts of this weekend, and of course Cody Chittum. But I don't want to jump too fast into that. But when it came to Sunday's results, Iowa State unfortunately did lose 26-10, which I saw a lot of people had a lot of feelings about this. Which obviously you never want to lose, especially not to an in-state rival, right? But I think it's kind of crazy that even casual fans looked at this and said, oh, number 14 Iowa State lost to number 4 Northern Iowa. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Like I think I tweeted it maybe. Iowa State had a path to win, but absolutely every single thing that had to go right had to go right.
Yep.
And that
did not happen. Yeah.
Like Jacob Frost losing at 141 to Cale Happel. He lost 10-7. He was so close. He was right there. Dresser said it, they got him tired, and even Andy was talking about it, like, let him meet again. Jacob Frost doesn't lose that match. I agree, but man, to start off the second match of the day and it's Jacob Frost losing who you really needed to win, it just kind of set the tone, I felt.
Yep.
So.
And you follow that up with the Panero loss.
Yeah.
And then MJ Gaitan loses to Jared Sima. So like all the things that you needed to happen did not happen. Yeah. Like you kind of figured Evan Frost would win. Cody Chittum got his upset. That needed to happen as well. That did happen. Daniel Herrera got his upset. So two of the things that needed to happen did, credit to Iowa State, but 1, 2, 3, 4 of the things that also needed to happen did not.
Yeah.
So, I think the UNI result isn't that surprising as a whole. It's unfortunate, obviously. Going back to Daniel Herrera, just building off your point, I loved his weekend because in both matches that he wrestled, Iowa State had lost the previous four in a row before going to Daniel Herrera. All the momentum is with South Dakota State, is with UNI. And he goes out there in hostile environments, both South Dakota State and UNI, especially UNI this last weekend, wrestled in front of great crowds. And Daniel Herrera says, no, not today. I'm going to get this win. Yeah. And doing that after 4 straight losses, doing that in two really close duels, was really, really impressive. And then both times he won, it was in the third period. That takedown and ride out of Luke Rasmussen against South Dakota State for the last, what was that, a minute, 30 seconds? Crazy. Heavyweights generally, I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, obviously, Wyatt Hendrickson, but heavyweights oftentimes aren't that great at riding. So for Herrera to really buck up there and say, I'm going to ride you and ride him for a minute 30 and stay active on top and do that was really, really impressive. And then against Lance Runyon, again, only listened to it on the radio, but the way they made it sound, Lance was shooting a lot of shots and Daniel was doing a great job of stuffing it. And it sounded like he put a lot of weight on his head, was able to get around, get that takedown in the third period to secure the win. Very, very impressive couple of matches from Daniel Herrera. Jackie and I had said this previously, he is the future of heavyweight at Iowa State Wrestling. We were both pretty confident in that. This weekend made me so much more confident. For a heavyweight to go in and do this is insane. Dresser said this before, but heavyweight is a man's weight. I remember Matt Campbell saying things like that about offensive linemen. It's so hard for true freshman offensive linemen to come in and play right away because, yes, they might be 320 pounds, but they're still a kid. They're still 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
You need that year of development, the strength training to be able to see the field and compete well. Daniel Herrera is not getting that. We've seen his body change even from the beginning of the year to now. Like, I think you said he's weighing like 245 these days. His body looks really good. So he's developing this in the course of a season without a redshirt year, without an off season really. So what he's doing right now, I don't think can be overstated for how impressive it is. Like I said, I was convinced he was probably the future of heavyweight for Iowa State. I know for a fact he is now. Like, younger Bastida will still be the guy next year, but Herrera will be very good for Iowa State.
Well, and it's just, and this is a conversation I'm sure we'll have with like an off-season pod or something, but the roster counts are going down. And I don't see Dresser bringing in, you have to be strategic suddenly about who you're adding at what weight. And to be able to have Daniel Herrera behind Younger as a practice partner after the season he's had, right? A season nobody was expecting. This will only also benefit Younger. To have someone who's felt competition like Wyatt Hendrickson and those types of guys, because it'll just help him improve, which is something I don't think we've necessarily talked about. But like I said, we'll talk about it in the offseason, not right now. But this is just very beneficial to Younger as well, to be able to go in the room and have a practice partner like Daniel Herrera, who's going to be a little more seasoned than originally anticipated. So
for sure.
And then he'll have a season where he does have to ride behind Younger, and now he'll know what it's like to be in the driver's seat and what it feels like to win and have your hand raised. So if what it sounds like Dresser's saying, the way he's wired and driven, I think next season he should come out of it even stronger.
I would agree.
So I think he's going to be an exciting one to watch. So, and not only that, but then you look at, you know what? Let's go to Cody Chittum.
Let's do it.
And then we'll talk about the Frost brothers.
Perfect.
Cody Chittum had lost to Ryder Downey twice prior to this. The last time being specifically at Big 12. So it was the Big 12 title match. Obviously, what we've learned from Cody Chittum is he's wired a little different. He's a little crazy in a good way. And obviously losing, he takes it in a way maybe others don't. And so I know Cody talks to us and says like, yeah, I'm just, focused on the next thing. I'm just
day by day.
Yeah, consistency, blah, blah, blah. And I believe them in that, but like, you're not crazy by just having that mentality. Like, there's a different part of you that very much still thinks about, okay, these losses hurt me. This is where I failed, and this is how I'm not going to fail. And I'm not kidding. On Sunday, he had like a stone face. He wasn't looking at anyone. When they were doing the lineups, when they were doing the introduction, Cody Chittum got called, and instead of waiting at the center of the mat, he just ran straight towards their tunnel to shake Ryder's hand right at like the edge of the mat. And you could even tell that it kind of threw Ryder off. And I really genuinely don't think Chittum was like, I don't think he was being like douchey about it. Yeah. I think he was just in such a zone. He just needed to get in there now. And if he was being douchey, well, maybe. But I didn't feel that's what he was doing. He just seemed so in the zone about it. And so it was really fun to see him get that win. I captured, of course, photos of him doing his scream. I need to find someone
becoming a patent for him, like it's a regular occurrence.
I know. Right after Allison Schwab looked at me and said, "He looked right at you," because I happened to be sitting next to Ian, who does the photo video, mostly video now for the wrestling program. So those guys know where he's at. So I just happened that I got to get him. But I'm really happy for him. I think it just shows, again, another sign of improvement. He's been in and out. Now we just saw that number 11 beats number 5. Going into it, I told Nick Ryder from IA Wrestle, I was like, Cody Chittum isn't losing that match. And he was like, well, and I said, no, look at him. Like, he's not losing that match. Rankings don't matter. I think we've said that before. Rankings don't matter when it comes to Cody Chittum. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how his march goes, strictly for the fact that I think he's maturing a lot in the way Coach talks about, his wrestling's a little tighter, a little cleaner. He's even talked about how his training in the room has also been focusing on like, how can you improve certain areas? How can you tighten certain ones while still keeping his kind of craziness to him, his unpredictability? Like switching from a dominant right leg to now he's a dominant left leg.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think he's going to be a terror. And I think people are going to underestimate him.
I do too. I think people are currently underestimating him. We talked about rankings earlier. He's still ranked number 11 by Intermat. Okay. And Ryder Downey is still ranked number 6. And that is the updated rankings like that, because Ryder Downey last week was number 5. So he did move down one. Chittum did not move. So I think a lot of people are going to be taken by surprise by what Cody Chittum does in March. I think those people aren't in the Iowa State program. I think Iowa State is starting to understand what Cody Chittum is. And what Dresser said is he's a little nutty.
Yeah.
And I asked him about that. Dresser's like, well, oftentimes the nuttiest people are often the best wrestlers. And Chittum does some nutty things. Like Dresser told us today that Chittum, without being asked, without being told, folded Dresser's clothes because Chittum needs a clean locker room. And he saw Dresser's clothes in his locker, unfolded, just kind of sprawled over, like just in his locker, not neat. So Chittum goes over there and folds Dresser's shorts and shirt because Chittum can't have a dirty locker room. So like Chittum is wired different. Like this is a different cat. And Dresser's like, yeah, we've been trying to harp on him to get sleep. And like, he just doesn't sleep. Wakes up, he cleans the locker room, goes through the day, trains multiple times, does the thing. Before he goes to bed, goes back to the locker room, cleans the locker room. So he cleans the locker room before he goes to bed and when he wakes up in the morning. Like he is a little bit different. And who knows the time between when he, goes to bed and wakes up, because it sounds like he doesn't sleep. And I think I asked Chittum about that a couple weeks ago. And he's like, I get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. It's like, that's crazy. So he definitely has that nuttiness factor that Dresser talks about. And I think we're seeing it on the mat, not the nuttiness, but the fact that he is really coming into his own as a wrestler. He looks very confident. He's wrestling really, really well. Like you said, he switched his lead leg. I asked him about that too. He's like, yeah, I was right leg dominant wrestler my entire life. And then I was, talking with Metcalf. He's like, why don't you switch your lead leg? So he did. And he's like, now I can do different things and all these other things. Like that's how he got his takedown against Ryder Downey, because he had his left leg lead. And apparently Ryder wasn't expecting that or didn't know Chittum could do that and was able to get to that single leg transition to double leg because of that left leg lead. So just even things like that we oftentimes don't see or sometimes overlook. Cody Chittum is making huge strides right now. And I think, like you said, he is poised to have a very good March. Like I think All-American's definitely on the table. And Dresser said this. If you told me right now what Chittum's result would be, and if you tell it as a really good result, I would not be surprised. I think Dresser would not be surprised by, like, I'm almost expecting an All-American from Chittum at this point. But if he's top 3, I don't think I'm surprised. So top 3 at 157 right now are Tyler Kasek from Penn State, Meyer Shapiro from Cornell, and Ja'Cory Teamer from Iowa. We saw Pinheiro and Teamer wrestle earlier this year. We've seen Teamer. Was it Teamer and Chittum last year? Yeah, it was. We've seen Teamer and Chittum last year.
Yeah, Chittum
won. I think Kasek and Shapiro are going to be real tough. But besides that, I don't know why Chittum can't finish top 3. Or if the brackets are right and the draw goes really well, I don't know why he can't wrestle for a national title. I think Tyler Kasek's really tough to beat. I'm not going to try to dismiss that. But if Chittum gets the right draw, he could wrestle for a title. But
personally, again, no disrespect to Ja'Cory Teamer, but if that's the number 3 guy, I'm not worried about Chittum.
Yeah.
His wrestling does the talking. And honestly, I think him being underestimated is where he likes to be.
Oh, for sure he does.
So
I think that feeds to his psychoness.
I was trying to find it. Someone said something really funny in the forums about Chittum, about just like his demeanor.
I think his hair helps. I think him being clean cut last year, that didn't fit who he was. I think his wild hair this year is really, I think that fits his personality for what everyone says about him.
I will say, someone in the forum shared that after the duel ended, Chittum stuck around and helped clean up his team's area and helped fold chairs and made sure, that the area was clean and that he helped you and I in any way he could in that space, which that's leadership.
Yep.
Like, I know he said he doesn't think he's a leader yet, but that's leadership.
It is.
Like the fact that he's cleaning that locker room so much, that means you're leading the other guys who clearly are just a bunch of messy boys, which I thought was funny when Dresser said he thinks, what was it? you guys will have to go listen to the actual interview to hear it. But he said something about like, I think messy locker rooms means it's a messy team or something.
Yep.
So I love that he saw what coach wants from the locker room and ran with it. But speaking of guys that could contend, Evan Frost. Iowa State Wrestling put out Evan Frost season stats. He has a 16-2 record, career-long 12-match win streak. Last loss was December 7th. He has 10 bonus point wins, 33 takedowns, and that's insane. Like, Evan, this is another one that I think just flies under the radar because after the UNI duel, I was sitting, there it is. Thank you, Aiden. It's on the screen if you're watching the video of the podcast. Eli from the Register and I were sitting together post-duel. And as I was like, just kind of reviewing everything of how everything went, I was like, there's no reason why Evan Frost won't be wrestling for a championship. Like, literally, Ben, I'm sitting there and I'm like, what if I can't go to Ben's wedding because Evan Frost is wrestling for a championship? And I haven't dug deep into how everyone else is doing in the weight class, but there's zero reason why Evan Frost isn't a contender for the title.
He 1000% is a contender for the title. If you do miss my wedding because Evan Frost is in a championship, I'm okay with that. You got to do what you got to do. Evan Frost, yes, currently ranked number 4. Number 1 is Ryan Crookham from Lehigh. Very good wrestler. Don't take anything away from him. Drake Ayala is number 2. Lucas Bird is number 3 from Illinois. Then Evan Frost. I know Evan lost to Drake Ayala earlier this year, but he had beat him previously. I know for a fact that Evan Frost can beat Drake Ayala.
Absolutely.
I know, I guess I don't technically know because I haven't seen it, but I'm sure he can beat Lucas Bird, and I know he could compete with Ryan Crookham. So if we're looking for national title contenders in Iowa State's roster right now, I think you have to put Evan Frost as the number 1 title contender. I think he's darn near a lock for All-American at this point, unless injury, right? This all assumes injury. But assuming he's injury-free, he is almost a lock for All-American and can definitely compete for a national title, which at the beginning of the year, I don't know if I would have said that. I'd be like, yeah, top 5 finish would be reasonable.
Right.
But having seen the season play out, I'm just like, oh, wait. No, he could win this.
Yeah, that's how I felt Sunday. I was like, hold up a second. Like he's, puts his head down and works hard, which is really exciting. And I mean, just like, it's just who they are, right? They're pretty quiet, at least to us, right? It sounds like they're pretty funny and goofy on the team with each other, but I think this is exciting. And again, I think he also flies under the radar. I think people, I don't know if they necessarily underestimate him just because of what he was able to do last season and the way he's continuing that success this season. But I don't think people are paying attention enough to him.
Well, they don't. And it's because he's not flashy. Like
Yeah, not
David
at all.
Carr was flashy, so you paid attention to him. A lot of these Penn State guys are flashy, so you pay attention to him. Evan Frost and Jacob Frost are the most unflashy wrestlers you've ever seen. They have a sweep single and a high crotch. That's it. Those are their 2 shots, and they'll get takedowns off them. They wrestle really hard on top. They'll get their tilts and do things like that. They get out from bottom, and that's what they do, and they'll win by major decision most matches. And it's like, yeah, the third period comes along. It's like, oh, they have an 8-point lead. How did that happen? Because you don't realize it. It's like, I remember George Niang, his sophomore year, averaged like 12, 13 points or something like that. It's like, those are the quietest 12, 13 points ever. And like as a senior and junior, you're like, oh yeah, George Niang, that's what he does. He's very, very good. But like, that's what it feels like with the Frost brothers is like, they're just so quiet about how they get their points and how they wrestle, and nothing about them is flashy. It's like, oh yeah, you win by a major decision all of the time.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's what we talked about with Evan last season. It was like, oh, Evan Frost won again. Of course he did.
Yeah.
So I think last year, maybe I don't know if we took it for granted or just because it was like, oh, cool, the freshman's doing really well. This is great. We love it. And then you'd focus on like David Carr.
Yep. Younger Bastida.
Well, no, he's literally best guy on there. This is great. I love it. And Jacob's being, learning along the way, making a few mistakes here and there, but I don't doubt Jacob would win against Cale Happel eventually. He's going to get it.
Yeah. I think he gets that match the next time they wrestle.
I think Big 12 will be fun. I hope they end up.
I hope they meet. Hopefully it's in the championship. That'd be awesome.
That'd be really
all for
fun.
that.
So
It probably won't happen. I just realized Andrew Lear has existed.
Oh, yes, of course. Well,
so maybe they meet in the semifinals.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the brackets work out. But a lot of things to take away. Coach had a lot of good things to say. Probably had some good time to reflect on everything. Obviously, tough losses, but you got to win Friday night and then a loss Sunday. You learn from it. Now they have Missouri this upcoming weekend, which is on Saturday at noon. So
Keegan O'Toole bobblehead night.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Or afternoon.
Aiden told us they're giving out Keegan O'Toole bobbleheads to a limited amount of fans.
Yeah.
Where was our David Carr bobblehead?
I don't know. We got to talk to Dresser about that one, I think.
I know. Other major updates from the program. Kyson Terrakina, it sounds like that's who we'll be seeing at Big 12s at 125.
Yeah. Will not wrestle against Missouri this weekend.
Yeah, but he's definitely not.
Back on the mat that day.
And coach said they haven't had to harp on him once this season about weight or just like how he's training or anything, which is really great. So hopefully he's back and better than ever to finish out his last matches as a collegiate athlete. Crazy. And then if you watch the UNI duel, MJ did have to take some like injury time. He had something in his knee or his like quad or something. Coach described that there was some swelling Monday, but that he's totally fine. It did say he was 50-50 for Saturday, just because it's the last duel of the season. Don't want to get too, don't want to take your chances, basically. Yep. I thought of the Krusty Krab, of the Mr. Krabs meme from SpongeBob, you know, when he's like, sees, like his world starts turning. Oh, yeah. That's what I envisioned Dresser when he saw MJ go down. Yeah. But sounds like he's fine. It just might be one of those where you just want to be extra cautious.
Yeah, he said if it was Big 12s, he'd be wrestling for sure.
Yeah. So any last thoughts before we wrap it up here?
Crazy that the season's almost done.
I know.
But I think Iowa State, very young team, is poised to have some surprises on the national level. I think Chittum and probably both the Frost brothers will surprise a lot of people.
Yeah.
And maybe Herrera comes out of nowhere. I don't think he's an All-American caliber, but like if he wins a few matches at nationals, I could see people going like, who's this Herrera kid? Yeah, he's a true freshman.
Yeah.
Got him.
I mean, I'm curious how he's going to do just because he is young. He is a freshman. And I mean, March is a different beast. So I'm just curious to see how he handles it.
Yep.
So I've said this before and I'll say it again. You have to focus on individuals in order to find where to be happy with this team. Dresser talked about how on Sunday he kept looking back behind his shoulder and would see guys, you know, like Younger and Echemendia and Casey and Uten and just all those guys, you know, kind of helping be honorary coaches on the side, yelling their brains out there. And it sucks because you know the potential, you know what they could have done. There's no way Iowa State loses if all those guys are in there.
I would agree.
I said what I said. So I'm excited to see what these guys can do. Seriously, I feel like you have to get excited about Evan Frost. Jacob Frost is going to be a terror. And like you said, I think we're seeing some of the best out of Cody Chittum, and there's still more. And hey, Panero Johnson's very talented. Let's see how he takes Sunday's rough and rowdy loss there and what he does with it. Yep. So a lot of good things are coming, I think, but patience is key here. So, but anyways, we'll be back. We're literally a few weeks away from Tulsa, which is crazy. And as always, we wouldn't be here without our presenting sponsor, Fareway. So go get your meats, go get your groceries, go hit up Fareway, huge supporters of the sport and us here at Cyclone Fanatic. So as always, guys, thanks for listening.